What were you doing between the hours of 10 o'clock p.m. and 6 o'clock a.m. from December 25th to the 26th in 1996? Sleeping with dreams of all your new toys floating around in your mind? Secretly up and enjoying the presents you'd received the previous morning? Eagerly awaiting the next time you get to celebrate with gifts and food? Your birthday, Halloween, next Christmas? For one 6-year-old girl, December 25th, 1996 would be her last Christmas, and the last time anyone would see her alive. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, to John and Patricia Ramsey in Atlanta, Georgia. When she was 9 months old, her family relocated to Boulder, Colorado. With an angel-like face and a waterfall of golden curls, JonBenet participated in a variety of beauty pageants across America. Her mother, Patsy, often funded these pageants, introducing the both innocent but very beautiful face of her 6-year-old daughter to the world of child beauty pageants. She was called a painted baby, according to TrueTV.com's article, a sexualized toddler beauty queen. Perhaps this was part of the reason the media attacked every detail when her body was found in the basement of her own home, a nylon cord around her neck, her wrists tied above her head, duct tape over her mouth. Death by asphyxiation, the reports would soon reveal. However, craniocerebral trauma to the head had not helped the situation, according to Wikipedia's brief synopsis of the autopsy report. There was also evidence she had been sexually assaulted. However, part of what sets this case apart from other unsolved murders involves what was found before the body. According to the Ramseys' testimony, Patsy Ramsey awoke a little after 5 a.m. on December 26th and walked downstairs to the kitchen. On the staircase, she reported finding a 2.5-page ransom note, saying that JonBenet had been kidnapped by a small foreign faction and demanded $118,000. It was addressed to John Ramsey and stated that the money must be delivered or JonBenet would be executed. It also read that the kidnappers would contact John Ramsey. Patsy Ramsey's call to 911 was recorded at 5:25 a.m., and the police arrived at the house 7 minutes later. No call or contact of any kind ever arrived from the kidnappers. Strangely enough, while waiting for the call that never came, the police made several critical mistakes. The obvious being that they never conducted a proper search of the Ramsey household. It was only around 1:05 p.m., reads the article by Lawrence Schiller in the Chicago Sun-Times, that the police sent John Ramsey and a family friend, Fleet White, to search the house for anything unusual. That JonBenet was found. According to the police reports, at first sight it was obvious that JonBenet's body had been affected by advanced rigor mortis, revealing that the fact that her death must have occurred between 10 o'clock p.m. and 6 o'clock a.m. She was found in the wine cellar of the Ramseys' home, a room difficult to find without prior knowledge, her body covered by a white blanket. A garrote made from a length of tweed and cord and the broken handle of a paintbrush had been used to strangle her. Many sources, including TrueTV's article, Wikipedia's brief synopsis, and an article in Newsweek, report that due to the oddities this case held, for example, the very idea of a victim of kidnapping being found dead in her own home, the Ramseys were immediately suspected. The Rocky Mountain News quoted an assistant district attorney confirming this fact, revealing, "It doesn't add up." This is when the media circus began, creating their own what-ifs and conducting amateur investigations of what may have happened to this poor girl a day after Christmas. For information's sake, I will now reveal all of the evidence that was ever found regarding this case over the years that it was investigated. Please keep in mind that not all of this evidence was known from the very beginning, and some of it was found as they investigated over the years. This happened in 1996, and it's now 2011. The evidence includes the ransom note, remnants of pineapple in JonBenet's stomach that she must have eaten only hours before the murder, a DNA sample from a mixed blood sample found in JonBenet's underwear, which was concluded to belong to a male, an unidentified boot mark found in the dust of the wine cellar, an unidentified palm print on the door of the wine cellar, a pubic hair in the blanket she was covered in, and a stun gun marks were later found to match injuries on her chin. With this being a notorious unsolved murder case, many theories have emerged as to what may have happened to JonBenet Ramsey. The most popular and seemingly most believed theory is that John and Patricia Ramsey are responsible for the death of their own daughter. This theory emerged originally from police suspicion, as it was extremely rare to find the body of a supposedly kidnapped girl dead in the basement of her own home. Therefore, instead of concentrating their efforts on tracking down a deranged murderer, according to the True TV article, the police were instead keeping a close watch on John and Patricia Ramsey. Feeding off of the police's suspicions, the public and media immediately latched on to the frighteningly sick idea that one or both of JonBenet's parents had committed her murder. In support of this theory, the media began studying their own evidence about the case, reveals the article on TrueTV.com. First of all, there were apparently no footprints in the snow leading up to any doors or windows of the Ramsey household. This surely meant that the killer had to be someone inside the house, right? Actually, wrong. News coverage shot the day of the investigation clearly shows that there was no snow surrounding any areas of entry to the household. Therefore, there would obviously be no footprints in the snow. Another obvious factor in the case against the Ramseys was the fact that there was no sign of forced entry anywhere on the house. This certainly points the finger at the Ramseys, correct? Wrong again. According to TrueTV.com, the police report on December 26 noted that there were a number of open windows and at least one open door, and a basement window that had even been broken sometime before Christmas and could not be secured. All easily accessible entries for an outside intruder to use. Then came personal attacks towards the Ramseys. Talk about their high sexualization of JonBenet and her pageants only deepened the suspicion towards them. Temporary theories of John Ramsey sexually abusing his daughter were attacked by the media as a result of JonBenet's autopsy report, revealing that vaginal abrasion was present. However, Dr. Thomas Henry, the Denver medical examiner, as well as social services eventually disproved this theory, revealing that there was no indication of either physical or sexual abuse, after both completing the autopsy and interviewing JonBenet's 9-year-old brother, Burke. Next came theories regarding the ransom note. Both John and Patsy Ramsey submitted 5 handwriting samples each, using both hands, reveals True TV's article. John's samples reported not matching up to the ransom note. Patsy's, however, could not be disproven. This launched a massive amount of theories claiming Patsy had written the ransom note herself, attempting to play off the murder as a kidnapping. Petty evidence has been collected to supposedly support this theory, such as the note being written with one of Patsy's felt pens on one of her notepads. But is this really so hard to believe that the killer could have grabbed the first pen and paper in sight and written out the note to throw off the investigation, especially if they had not been previously planning on killing JonBenet? There is a website that breaks down the ransom note, attempting to analyze it, that seems to point many fingers at Patsy Ramsey. The site, statementanalysis.com, refers to clues such as the pen and the notepad coincidence, the use of large words in the note, and even the fact that, in the ransom note, the author uses the word hence. This site then compares this back to Patsy Ramsey's use of the word hence, as if it is a foreign word only the author of the note knows. Is this really substantial evidence that the note was written by Patricia Ramsey? Now, I do not doubt that the note was not actually written by foreigners planning to kidnap JonBenet, but suspecting an English-speaking woman simply because she uses one of the words present in the note seems a bit absurd. After years of torment from the public, but no further movement in the case, John and Patsy wrote a book titled The Death of Innocence in 2000. In it, they revealed their cooperation in giving hair, blood, and fingerprint samples to the police, as well as conducting numerous interviews before they realized they were under suspicion by the police themselves. Why would any samples or interviews voluntarily be given by someone hoping to get away with murder? But the most important amount of evidence supporting the Ramseys' innocence lies in the truth of DNA. As reported by a New Jersey newspaper article, in 2008, 2 years after Patsy Ramsey had passed away of ovarian cancer, new Touch DNA results proved evidence found on the long underwear JonBenet was found in, as well as on her clothes, belonged to an unidentified third-party male, no one in the Ramsey family. John, Patricia, and Burke Ramsey had officially been cleared of the 1996 killing. This newfound evidence went hand in hand with the fact that the mixed blood sample found in JonBenet's underwear was determined to be male and also did not belong to anyone in her family. Obviously, allegations against the Ramseys have seldom been backed up by substantial evidence, but because of the lack of suspects, they still remain the most popular answer to the question, who killed JonBenet? Other slightly less publicized and believed theories have been investigated over the years. One of them is the child pornography ring theory. The thought that a child pornography ring was taking place in or around Boulder and that JonBenet could have been pursued as a subject was investigated. While this could have been motive for kidnapping that led to an accidental murder, Crime Magazine concluded that the lead received regarding the theory was quickly dismissed due to both lacking evidence and also the fact that the source who provided the lead was not credible. Another theory is that someone involved in the beauty pageants business is responsible. However, truTV's article only vaguely mentions this theory, revealing that the police have cross-checked offenders of this type with anyone who knew the family or had access to the house. It would seem the only logical explanation left would be the theory of an intruder, someone who came into the Ramsey household unbeknownst to the Ramseys themselves and ended up murdering 6-year-old JonBenet, either purposefully or in an attempt to kidnap her. I believe this theory to be true. However, I do not believe this was a completely random act. There is a multitude of evidence that points to the intruder theory as being true, but there is also a multitude of evidence that suggests whoever committed this act was not a complete stranger. There is substantial proof that whoever killed JonBenet Ramsey knew her family and their household. This is not to say that the Ramseys may have been especially close with the intruder. John and Patricia Ramsey hosted many parties at their household in which hundreds of guests would attend. Surely the Ramseys were not especially familiar with each and every one of their frequent guests, but I'm sure every guest could tell you a thing or two about the Ramseys and about JonBenet. After the murder, John and Patsy made a list of suspects they believed could have been responsible for JonBenet's murder. According to their book, The Death of Innocence, police looked into the Ramseys' maid, the man they hired to play Santa at the Christmas parties and his wife, and co-workers of John's along with close friends and family. Every person checked out, however. But, interestingly enough, with further investigation, it was found that 30 copies of the key to the Ramseys' house were floating around amongst family and friends at the time of the murder, and 6 of these keys were never found. Isn't it possible someone simply used their key to enter the Ramseys' house? Regarding the ransom note, there are many clues that reveal the kidnapper knew his audience. First is the amount of money demanded in the note, $118,000. This is the exact amount that John Ramsey was recently given in the form of a bonus. This is usually a piece of evidence used against the Ramseys, but let's think this through. If you are John and Patricia Ramsey and you are writing a fake ransom note, a ransom you know you will never have to pay, why zero in on an amount as specific as $118,000? Especially if this would obviously draw people to suspect you. Wouldn't it make more sense for another person, someone who knew about John's bonus, to request this amount? It was surely not a coincidence. Whoever wrote that note knew about the bonus. A strong believer in the intruder theory is Lou Smith, a retired Colorado Springs homicide detective who was very successful in his time. According to a Time magazine article published in 1999, Smith believed the intruder entered the Ramsey household while they were out for the night on Christmas evening, wrote out the ransom note, and waited till the family returned. After they had returned and everyone had gone to bed, the intruder entered JonBenet's room and temporarily immobilized her with a stun gun before taking her into the basement and sexually assaulting her while simultaneously choking her with the garrote. He then believes JonBenet awakened and screamed, a scream which neighbors recall hearing in the middle of the night, but ignoring. He believes the killer then panicked and struck JonBenet before fleeing out the broken window. This would explain the scuff mark on a nearby wall as well as the unidentified boot and palm prints in the wine cellar. According to the TruTV.com article, the evidence does add up to an intruder. This includes the scuff mark, shoe print, and palm print, all unidentified, and DNA that indicates that the attacker was male that does not match John Ramsey. A vast amount of evidence also leads to the fact that the killer was at least somewhat familiar with the Ramseys. There was no sign of forced entry, possible use of a key or prior knowledge of entries to the house, knowledge of the $118,000 bonus John Ramsey received, information regarding the layout of the Ramseys' household, including where JonBenet's room was located as well as the wine cellar, which was said to not be a place many people could just stumble upon. In the case of JonBenet Ramsey, the verdict can seemingly only go one of two ways. If it was not the parents, then it was an intruder. Substantial evidence has come to prove John and Patricia Ramsey innocent. Therefore, it must have been someone else. That is simple enough to assume. But I don't believe it was just anyone else. It was a person with connections, information, knowledge of the Ramseys. It was someone they trusted, maybe not knowingly and not outrightly, but someone they trusted nonetheless. It was a person with a premeditated plan to bring harm to a 6-year-old girl and her family, regardless of what their ulterior motives were. Whether this was a kidnapping gone wrong or an outright murder, the crime remains sickening and unbelievable. I also believe that part of the reason this case remains unsolved lies within the accusations and false conclusions of the public. If more time would have been spent gathering suspects instead of gathering reasons why the Ramseys would have killed their own daughter, maybe we would have the answer to this puzzle. There is no doubt in my mind that the perpetrator vanished while the media focused all their attention on reasons why the Ramseys should be behind bars. I believe a quote from the book, The Cases That Haunt Us, by John E. Douglas and Mark Alshaker, sums up the haunting aspect of the JonBenet Ramsey murder. The quote reads, "Many crimes are tried in the court of public opinion long before they reach a court of law. But I know of no other case in which the majority of people have decided the solution based on statistics. I know of no other case in which the public substantially believes what has been reported in the tabloids. I know of no other case in which the mainline media have let the tabloids take the lead and then reported on their reporting. And I know of no other case in which largely respectable television programs have so tried to outdo each other in sensationalism. I would not be so exercised, except this is so clearly and fundamentally the enemy of fairness and injustice."